All right. Welcome, everybody, to the Excel conference. So glad you're here. My name is Jake Rushton, 401 Jake. Many of you hopefully know who I am. This is going to be a great one. We're going to talk about prospecting and driving business in a virtual setting. And I want to just kick it off by introducing everybody. I'm going to start with myself, and then we'll go to Jake Weingart and Jeannie Fisher. So first, I'm 401 Jake. I'm based out of Utah. I cover Utah and Idaho. I run a practice very focused on physicians and those in the high tax bracket space. Do a lot of cash balance plans, and I really, really enjoy sharing what I do with other advisors. So I'm glad to be here and part of this conference today. Take it away, Jake.
You're muted, Jake.
Thanks for the heads up. My name is Jake Weingart. I'm a partner at Moneta. We're an RIA based in St. Louis. We have about 350 employees, a couple offices throughout the country, but most of us are based in St. Louis. And we manage about 350 retirement plans, mostly 401k plans based in the Midwest.
Awesome. All right. Great. Thanks, Jake. And then Jeannie, give us a quick intro.
I'm Jeannie Fisher. I'm with Strategic Retirement Partners, the Nashville, Tennessee office. My partner Brian and I work there, and we do retirement plans, and we also do private wealth. So if anybody in here is on both sides of the fence, then hopefully we'll be able to add some pointers on that too.
Great. So we're going to dive into the topic today because I know everyone's busy. It's the last day of the quarter. This is an insane time, I'm sure, for all of you. I know I have meetings that started at 7 a.m. this morning. So what I know I want to talk about with you today is kind of 2020 and the whole move to digital, right? We all had to make this shift from seeing people in person, whether you're a wholesaler or an advisor or whatever your role is. Now you hopefully are comfortable on camera, and we want to talk about how to drive business, prospect, get more opportunities to do that. So Jeannie, go ahead. Tell us a little bit about what you've done. Let's kind of dive into how you've changed, post-COVID to now. And so let's get into some ideas, and we'll kind of go around from there.
Well, so the servicing aspect has definitely changed the most. We were doing most of our servicing in person, but from a business development prospecting perspective, we did quite a bit digitally anyway. So that hasn't changed too much. Early on, there was a drastic switch we were doing a lot of in-person CE presentations through SHRM associations, medical group associations. And there was a whole push to kind of switch that to the virtual side, shorten, condense the presentations, try to keep them as lively as possible when you're speaking to a computer screen. That's where things changed. And then just trying to keep the relationships that you had started warm in what feels like a very cold time.
Yeah, I know for me, I was doing some Disrupt HR events, last few years in 3 different cities, and those all stopped. And those were great events to build some quick relationships with 8 people in HR. And so, switching to virtual was definitely something that had to change on the prospecting side of group events. Jake, what have you done differently this year?
Yeah, I think, to piggyback on something Jeannie just said, I think, the 2 big places where it's affected our business the most has been participant education has been a huge adjustment. I think there's a lot of separate conversations that we could focus on there. But the other area that I wanted to talk about today was just really, I am a face-to-face, old school relationship person. And that's really what I've used in the past to move clients through the sales cycle. And obviously, March came around and those face-to-face meetings weren't allowed anymore. So I quickly really was forced, both from an internal communications perspective and with existing clients and prospective clients, into this Microsoft Teams Zoom environment. I struggled with it at first. I think emotionally, being able to connect with people, I didn't feel like it was there. But as time went on and I got used to it, I realized there were a ton of advantages to it. And I think we've actually seen some of our sales cycle speeds increase as a result of that. I think most of that is due to scheduling. It's actually easier to get people together. If you're talking to a company that has executives that might be in multiple locations, in the past, it might be a month or 2 to get a meeting on the calendar, and these days, sometimes it can happen in a week or so. And I think some of the other benefits of it are it's just better than a phone call. So, you can set up an initial meeting with somebody and get to meet them and really move that relationship forward and develop a comfort level much better than you could have done on the phone in the past. So that's the biggest thing for us, I think.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And I'm totally on board with saying I love to meet with people face to face. I mean, I'm not one, even though I'm on social media a lot, and we'll talk about that in a second. And I like being on camera. I really enjoy putting my content out and being kind of the face of our plans and being available to all the plan participants. I know it is a struggle for a lot of people, and I hope that this stigma of doing a FaceTime call or doing a Zoom meeting or Teams is now gone in a way that you're comfortable being on camera and sharing your best yourself, however that is, whatever makes you valuable and approachable and someone that the client wants to work with easier. So what I really wanted to dive into now is kind of what is driving the growth, like how are we growing our businesses? And I'll share mine and then we'll go to Jeannie. To me, I don't like to walk into an RFP or a big committee meeting cold where they don't know me, I don't know them. I don't think those ever go well. And so for me, what this digital change, now everybody's online, more people on their phones, has given me an opportunity to create a little bit of who Jake is, who he is as an advisor. So they know me before I even walk in and have that meeting. So that first get together, if it happens in person or Zoom, it's not like, who is this guy and what's he trying to sell us? It's, hey, how's it going, Jake? Like, talk to us about our plan. It's actually consulting rather than a sales pitch. And that's what we got to get our minds around, is how do we digitally like project our personality through the camera and not be a different person on camera. Jeannie, what are your thoughts on that? And what do you do different?
Yeah, I completely agree. I think one of the biggest benefits of just being active on social media in a video form or even just casual pictures is people know you before you even walk in the door. We hear all the time from prospects, I feel like I know you guys, because they see us on social media. I think that's absolutely huge. I think one of the biggest points, though, is just slowly building the relationship online at the same time. Like, you don't connect with somebody and say, oh, by the way, I want your business. You connect to somebody and you say, oh my gosh, I also went to Western. And then you wait a little bit. And then you're like, oh, congratulations on that award your company just received. Like, it's still a slow roll. It's just done digitally.
Yeah, and it's genuine. I think you have to actually care and enter their world a little bit, not just want to sell them something. That's the real mistake I see a lot of advisors make, is they go straight for the kill, right? Like, hey, move your plan to me right out of the gate. And that's not how it's going to work. So social media, and Jake, do you want to add to that before we dive into social media? I have some good thoughts around how to help people understand that better, but how are you, getting your personality out there and so people progress through your pipeline?
Yeah. So, I'm taking notes from you guys, obviously, on the social media front, because you guys are so good at it. And I think we're pretty far behind in that area for various reasons. But, what you're saying applies to everybody in terms of the warmer you can have a relationship be when the need comes to actually explore a change or a real opportunity, the better position you're going to be in. One of the things that we've done a couple times successfully that kind of happened by luck, I would say, is, and tying this back into our previous conversations, I've actually had clients set up a Teams call with somebody they wanted to refer us to. So in the past, that probably would have been an email, right? That they would have said, hey, I want to introduce you to Jake. Here's what he does. They've helped us with our plan, blah, 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 blah. And then it's up to us. But we've been in a room with 3 people just like this. And then not only is it a warm handoff, but they know each other for some reason, and they can speak in that meeting to the work that we've done for them. And then you're off and running, right? That sales cycle has catapulted way forward versus what it would have been in the past. So it happened once to me kind of randomly, the way that worked out. And then I sort of orchestrated it the next time. And I plan on trying to do that some more, because it was just a great way to get to know somebody, learn what they are into because of their relationship with somebody else, and then have that relationship so that you can move that deal through the sales cycle.
Yeah. And that's really critical, is keeping that progress, but reducing the friction. So they're able to reach you, and it's not this back and forth, like we can set up a time and jump on a call wherever and actually start making progress. Because one thing people all want is more time. So if we can really think of that in the back of our heads, how can we give you back more time? No one wants to set up and have this hour meeting with somebody they don't know to talk about the 401k. I don't know who would ever want that. So how do you give back their time, and how do they get to know you when they want to. And that's where I want to dive into social media, if that's okay, just so people can kind of understand how I look at it. I don't know if many of you watched the new documentary that's out on Netflix, The Social Dilemma. I found it fascinating because I watched it with my wife, and we both had a very different take on the perspective of what they were trying to present. And I feel like they kind of try to present it in a negative way, that it's, destroying us. And yes, there's some definite negative things that come off of social media. But as I was watching it, I kept thinking about my business and how I fit into that. How can I leverage what is going on with social media? Because it's not going to go away. It's not something that we can all just make disappear. So how do we make sure that it's a positive thing for our prospects and clients? So thinking that through, if they want information about their 401k, or if they want to make a change or what's going on, they need to be able to find you. They're not going to go and maybe some SEO, we'll get into websites, but social media is where everyone's attention is. So when you go to social media, you've got to have the mindset of, I'm not here to sell anything. I'm here to create, to give awareness and explain some of the values that I would bring to help you, some of the solutions that maybe you're looking for free. Like, you're not trying to hold out some secret sauce, give it away. To me, there is no secret that an advisor down the street can do different than me. It's how much effort and consistent follow-up and work they're going to put in. And that's the real value. So social media, you have to understand the room or the context of someone's attention when they're on that platform. So most of us, obviously LinkedIn is probably the top of the list. And LinkedIn has really morphed and changed a lot over the years. And I still see it today, people just sharing a news article and not even commenting about it. Or just liking and just being kind of a ghost and just kind of like and not really ever commenting or making posts. And given your compliance situation, you may have struggles there, but I would encourage you to push back on those and understand what you can and can't do, and realize that you're still the person that someone's going to trust and invite to work on their plan. And that is the personal branding aspect that I think social media can give you. After LinkedIn, I would say you've got to understand how YouTube works. That's a different whole platform altogether, and that's a searching platform. And Jeannie's an expert at that. I mean, Jeannie has put out so much good content there. I literally have sent videos of Jeannie explaining something to clients because she explained it so much better than I could. So that, if you need examples of what you can and can't do, like look at what her channel has and how she puts little bits of it, not the whole video, on LinkedIn, and then drives you to that YouTube channel. That's the great idea behind that. Jeannie, talk to us about that, about just why you did YouTube and how you keep that going.
Yeah. So a couple of things, back in the day, it used to be, if you wanted to get credibility, you had to write a book. Like, that's what everybody would do back in the day, is write a book. And I started actually to sit down and write a book. And then I realized nobody in my generation reads books. We watch videos, and it was a lot easier just to film a video. So that's why I started doing them. In those little time slots. And what I would just say about social media is, your web page, you're still expecting somebody to virtually walk by your storefront and enter. You're still asking them to come to you. But when you are putting information and content on social media, you are walking into their place of business. And you're not only attracting new attention, but you're constantly dripping on existing clients or people already in the pipeline. But the other thing is it's not just content production. It's original thoughts, it's original ideas, and then it's engaging with others. So we don't have chamber events anymore, right? We don't have industry conferences right now. This is the world that we're in. And if you look, there's a whole chat on the side of people actually engaging with each other during this session. And that's how you have to think about social media. If you're just putting a post on social media and then walking away, that's the equivalent of walking into a chamber networking event and sitting on the wall. Like, you can't be a wallflower. You have to engage with others in this virtual setting.
Hey, Jake, I just wanted to add comment for 1 minute on a comment you made about kind of the intention you have to have when you're engaging on social media. Basically, what you were saying was, you don't want to sort of be on there and the first contact you have with somebody is, hey, want to buy whatever from me, whatever it is that you're trying to sell. You really have to have good intentions about being part of a community and making whatever that community is better by your contributions to it. And the reason it struck me is because one of the best pieces of sales training I ever got was about this exact concept. It just had nothing to do with social media. It had to do with your actual interactions with a prospective client, right? And it's called high intent. So when you engage with somebody, the concept is if you have good intentions and your intentions are, I want to explore the needs of this person and then determine whether or not we might be a good fit or help this person solve their problems. And that's how you approach it. You're going to be way more successful than if you go into that situation. How can I figure out how to sell something to this person? Because we're selling to people, committees, things like that, and people sniff through that, and it doesn't work out well. And so that's one of the primary things that I really live by, is just having the intention of helping people. And I found that if you do that, yeah, some things aren't going to go your way and you're going to push some people elsewhere, but people are attracted to that, and that's going to help you drive business. And I heard basically the same exact thing as you talked about, what has to happen to have a successful social media presence.
Yeah, it goes back to your prospects and your clients want to know, like, and trust you. They're not going to do business with you unless those things happen. And they're spending time on social media. So this is a place where you can create awareness of what you do, who you help, and how you do it. And I saw a comment in the chat that most firms don't allow other social media platforms. And I would say you need to understand you don't have to go on each platform and create a 401k focused discussion on each one, but people are going to research you. I mean, if they're going to make it a big decision like moving their 401k to your firm, they're going to Google your firm. They're going to look on social media. I do that all the time. I'll look on Instagram. I'll look on LinkedIn. I'll look and see what kind of content, what kind of things they do. Is this something I really want to work with? Like, just think back to other things you've spent money on, and a 401k is a big deal for a larger company, really any company. And it's a long-term relationship that you don't want to make a mistake on. So the more that you can show what kind of a person and put your reputation out there where people are looking, the better chance they're going to find you. And that will lead them back to your website, which will lead them to a link to go to your calendar, to set up a call, a Zoom meeting, whatever. But it's not going to happen if they can't find you. And trying to trick the Google algorithm on SEO is, I think, outdated and not really worth it. The way to really combat that and understand SEO is to put out good, valuable content, and the rest will figure its way out. I mean, there's certain things you got to do to check the box, but if you're creating content, that Google will reward you for that, and people will find you that are looking for that. So one thing though that Jeannie, you were saying with Facebook, you've done actually some paid ads, and I've never really run a lot of paid advertising. So with LinkedIn, I'm using the free version. I don't pay to distribute any of my content. It's all been organic. I have, a lot of times I'll just use my camera on my phone. Like, you don't need to spend a ton of money to create content. Your phone literally has everything you need. So Jeannie, what have you done on the paid space that's been successful for you?
Yeah, I think so. There's a couple of things, and this has been asked a couple of times. So I guess what I would say is start small and start focused first off, and know the audience of each platform. I had mentioned that, we do Facebook advertising too. That is solely marketing private wealth. Typically, you're not picking up a committee member or an HR person on Facebook. LinkedIn, we typically focus solely on, our committees and our 401k clients. So, don't feel like you have to do everything all at once. Identify your social media platform and then identify the intended audience. The video we post to Facebook and LinkedIn may be the exact same video, but the lead-in is different because we're targeting our audience. I haven't done any paid advertising on LinkedIn. I just upgraded to premium a couple months ago because I came to the point where I was like, we're putting a bunch of content out there. We've got brand awareness. Now we need to be really intentional about lead conversion. And the only reason I went premium, some people are asking like what I use. I don't use Navigator. I don't use any of that. I use premium solely so I can see everybody who looks at my profile and everybody who looks at my content. So if I'm posting a defined benefit video, I'm going to scroll through and see if a CFO viewed it. And I'm going to look up that CFO's company and see if they have a plan and then reach out to them. So that's what I mean about intentional use of prospecting through the social media channels. Facebook is still new. I'm still beta testing everything. It's the same video content. So creating one piece, but figuring out how to maximize each channel. The same video goes on YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn. On the Facebook paid advertising, it's really efficient. And I pulled numbers just to give you guys some ideas. In the last 120 days, I've only boosted about 5 videos and maybe spent about $250. And I've gotten 60,000 in reach, 50,000 have actually engaged with the video and 1,100 link clicks. And up until this last video, every link click was to schedule a meeting. And I decided that that was too tall of an ask because I was getting a lot of LinkedIn or a lot of clicks, but not a lot of schedules. So in the video I boosted last night, I actually did send a message, and I've already gotten more messages than I've ever gotten meeting requests. So I'm constantly beta testing, like if you're going to put the content out, then what is the action that you're going to request for somebody? How do you remove as many barriers of entry as possible to get the conversation started? And how do you do it in a way where you're not getting a million requests on which stock to buy, right? Like, because that's the risk of going on social media is what is actually going to come back at me.
And that's what you can't say on there, right? I mean, you're not going to make videos and give out advice of which fund to choose. Like, that's a compliance problem. But you can go in there and explain what you learn and document. So you're totally right on that.
Right. But I think I feel like that's where our industry is still learning. And honestly, I sit there and I look at the Instagram influencers and I'm like, how are they doing this, right? They're not just posting pictures of themselves in outfits. They're convincing people to buy that outfit. So like, we really need to be thinking as an industry, if an influencer can convince you to buy these sunglasses, how do I convince you to message me? How do I convince you to schedule a meeting with me? Like, that's my goal this year, is to figure that out.
Yeah. And I think even the beginning of what you said, knowing the context of the room, knowing your audience, where they are. The Facebook audience is not the same as LinkedIn. You're not thinking in the same mindset. It's not the same group of people, but you will have the ability to target very specific groups, even companies, titles, all that stuff, and give them the message so that if they're the ones looking at that moment, if it's a timing thing, right? You might, in the old days, just call up, a random person on a 5,500 list. And if they're in the market to shop their plan, you got in. They weren't thinking about you or know about you, but you got lucky. So you can be a lot more thoughtful and get a lot higher probability of winning a plan because you're in front of them. So let's switch gears a little bit. Well, let's see if let's go through our questions real quick. I want to make sure that we get everyone's answered. I think that'd be good. And then we'll dive into a little bit of my thoughts, and we'll share how like continually manage and operating your business digitally versus how we kind of showed up. I did a meeting actually this morning in person with masks on at a manufacturing firm. And it was interesting because there's not a lot of questions, right? The old school way of doing it. Not a lot of them are on, some of them didn't have emails. So that was fun to try and enroll people. But the difference was, I think you can still do the same thing digitally and have just as valuable influence on those participants without even leaving your house. So real quick. So let's look at the questions. I don't know if you guys want to just cruise through them real quick with us. Are you outsourcing any digital presence? My thoughts on outsourcing your social media or any of the content creation is a bad idea. Like I don't see a way that you can really do that from a successful brand method or a personal reputation method by having someone else do it. You got to be the one to do it. So how I approach it is make sure you're set up on every platform. So if someone does look you up on wherever, TikTok, LinkedIn, Twitter, I don't care where they're looking, you better at least have how to get a hold of you there. You don't have to put a lot of content on there. You don't have to put anything. But if they find your site or your section on that social media platform, at least they know how to reach you. I don't see how compliance can have a problem with that, putting your email or your phone number there. So yeah, I wouldn't outsource that.
Jake, I'll just add on to that a little bit. I think the other thing that's hard, we've talked to companies in the past about this, and to everybody on this call right now, we've all been in the business, and it probably doesn't seem like what we do is that difficult. But the truth is, take a marketing person or a team of marketing people that don't really know our industry and what we do really well. It's going to be really hard and take a lot of time and money to help them understand enough about what we do and our place in the market and what differentiates us to be able to create anything meaningful. And so that's why we opted not to do it.
Yeah, no, and that's good feedback. I think everybody's going to have a different take or different support on their compliance team and how the process will look. Our team's pretty small and we move really fast. And I think there's an advantage to that. I honestly believe that the first record keeper that figures this out and allows their wholesaler team to put a lot of content out and really drive some awareness is going to see some huge success. But everybody's just kind of sitting back and saying no to everything. And so I can't tell you how many times I have a wholesaler telling me they saw my content, but I've never seen them made a comment or anything. I don't even know they're on LinkedIn looking at it. So everyone's on there. It's just whether or not you're comfortable sharing some thoughts. Jeannie, what do you want to add to that?
So I'll just add one more thing about direct communication, and I'm 100% stealing this from a woman named Erin King. She spoke at the Women in Retirement Conference in January, and I pivotally changed how I post on social media and how I send emails. So it's not even just social media. She used the acronym PUB. And so before you try to start a conversation with any prospect, ask yourself this: is it personal to them? Is it useful? And is it brief? And you want every initial contact to pass the PUB method, because if it's personal to them, they'll react. If it's useful, you're providing them information. And if it's brief, they'll read it. And her short story is, do you guys remember the, I think it was the Academy Awards when Ellen DeGeneres took the selfie that was the most retweeted selfie? I don't know if you guys, it was the whole group. Well, anyway, Erin King ran social media for the Academy Awards that year, and she got that contract through a LinkedIn message. She got the contract to run the social media for the Academy Awards that year because she sent a PUB message on LinkedIn to somebody about dogs that she realized they adopted. So I have completely taken this idea, and you build your prospect list and you have 100 prospects, but you have 20 that you're sitting there thinking, that's a good plan, right? The plan's terrible, so I should be their advisor, and it's a good size plan. Take the time to look up the people, look up the decision makers, go into LinkedIn. Do you have any connections? How do they know them? Are they interested in adopting dogs? Whatever it is, make that first connection extremely personal, add something useful in it, and make it incredibly brief.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, there's so much out there that people share. You don't have to come in and just try to sell from the first meeting. You can build a relationship with somebody. And I would dare to make the challenge that you can do the same to all your participants, whether you're in the enterprise level or you're in the physician niche like me. I know most record keepers are trying to say, well, we'll take care of enrollment meetings. We'll do all this for you. My approach has been, especially during COVID when I couldn't travel, was I'm going to create videos, very specific short videos that are answering the most common questions I get in an enrollment meeting, put them on a landing website page, and send that out to all of the participants with a link to set up a time personally to do a one-on-one with me and a personal invite to each one of them so that they can look at that, whether they're at home with their spouse or they're at work. I'm the face, they get to know me, and I made the video one time. I don't see why more advisors aren't doing that. I think outsourcing that responsibility is a mistake. And I think most of us could really improve the brand awareness and the value you bring just by learning how to make some videos and create content. So that's something that we like to do, and how it will drive more business and more rollovers, and it opens other doors because those people will move around and they'll remember the work you put in. Anything to add to that, Jake? We're almost out of time.
I don't think so. I think that was well said.
One last thing on the chat is Matt's asking, how do you come up with the topics? Honestly, if you think too much about that, you're doing it. You're not doing it right. Just document what you're doing. You learned about something yesterday. I got into a deep discussion about settler fees yesterday. Honestly, that was a new thing I hadn't spent a lot of time on. Just document, share things that you learn as an advisor that could help an HR person or a participant. Share it to the right place, however you feel comfortable, however your compliance allow you, and you'll get more and more comfortable doing that. I want to add that there was a poll I ran, and it looks like most people, about 50%, have about 3 to 4 social media accounts. If you have more questions about that, I have a link. It's going to be, I don't know, it's down right now, but 401jake.com/excel. I'm putting a lot of the stuff I talked about in much more in depth, as well as a 1-page example of what I send to different podcasts to be on them. We didn't touch on podcasting, but that's another digital outlet for you. So we won't talk about that today, but if you have questions about that, you don't need to start a podcast. You can share your thoughts on other people's and let them do all the work. Yeah. Go ahead, Jeannie, wrap it up. Jake, anything else you guys want to add?
I'll do one more. Hunter.io is a website. I got this from a colleague. I think it was Lisa Petronio. I got it from somebody. It's it helps you find the email address. So Hunter.io, that's a pretty quick tip, easy thing to use.
And then I'll share one more thing in closing to that. the last question there that asked about topics, even though I'm not a big social media user, we do prospecting campaigns that have certain topics that we identify, and we use screen scraping technology to find 5500s that meet those things. The way we identify those topics is just based on what we're talking to our clients about and what we're hearing our clients say are their issues and things that are coming up, and then finding ways to connect that to publicly available information. So thanks for joining, everybody. It's been a fun, fast half hour.
Yeah, thank you, everybody. Thank you, Lisa, Brian, everybody at Advisor 2X for putting this on. Love the event. Appreciate everyone participating. Good luck in the fourth quarter.